Hello everyone, my name is Voltaire and I will be discussing about a new assessment task to implement. In this course of podiatry project, the assessment task will be project plan and Gantt chart. It will be assessed every fortnight for 8 weeks in total, and the aim for this assessment task will be to engage students more regularly to work in their groups and with the designated supervisor. The learning theory that applies to this assessment task would be based on Vygotsky's social constructivism. This learning theory relates to students being able to build new understandings from learning materials based on existing knowledge. One of the key points from Vygotsky is that the educator should aim to be a facilitator in others' learning rather than purely a content provider. By applying this learning theory, students are able to communicate and work effectively with their peers and supervisor. The supervisor will use formative feedback to promote students to consistently work on this assessment, which acts as a loop for the group as a whole to improve the quality of the project plan and Gantt chart. And in this assessment task, the existing knowledge is the feedback from the supervisor of what is done well and what requires improvement. And this learning also includes scaffolding, which allows the educator to adjust their feedback when providing help in response to the level of performance of the students. Following national standards, such as those set out in TEXA and the Higher Education Standards frameworks, will allow the assessment task to meet broader principles of assessment in the Australian higher education sector. The assessment of the project plan and Gantt chart will meet some of these principles as it will aim to help students achieve the desired learning outcomes set out in the course program, which would ensure its validity to assess students' ability to apply their project management skills as a group. For the reliability of this assessment task, following a standard criteria for all students to follow can be used to assess the students' level of competency and accuracy for their work each fortnight, and this will produce more consistent results. The assessment will also aim to provide fairness for students to improve their work and remedy their mistakes, and this can potentially support diverse student needs. The authenticity of this assessment will allow students to be exposed to simulated project management processes which can enhance their understanding and knowledge for future projects they may be involved in. The designated timelines of the project and the applicability of the Gantt chart can help students become more exposed to these types of work-related tasks and confident to complete them. Especially in healthcare, working with others is very important to effectively reach workplace goals and improve quality of care. The literature review by Bailey 2023 shows that some of the studies identified learners responding better with authentic assessments, and it allows students to have opportunities to explore their roles further. The current practice has students create their project plan and Gantt chart with their assessment due at the end of 10 weeks from the start of the study period. This model does address the learning outcomes, but is more likely to disengage students throughout the 10 weeks as they have no requirements or penalty to complete the assessment at a consistent rate and consider the feedback they gain from their designated supervisor throughout the term. With the new assessment task model, it promotes students to work more effectively with each other and give them responsibility in a shorter time frame to what real-life workplaces can implement. The use of formative feedback from the supervisor each fortnight can allow the students to learn the pros and cons of their project plan, which is assessed instead of only having discussions until the due date. This will encourage more commitment from the students. Olsen and Hans 2023 suggests that formative feedback can help students to achieve their learning goals and pay attention to feedback which can lead them becoming more motivated in their studies. It will also allow the supervisor to observe the group of students' progress after each assessment due date and determine whether they've complied with the feedback provided to them. The assessment task will enhance student engagement and learning as each fortnight their project planning and Gantt chart will be assessed by the supervisor. This should encourage students to complete their work individually and as a group regularly. The experience that students will gain with having their project plan and Gantt chart assessed each fortnight can help them address the task simultaneously while meeting their own timelines. Supervisors can provide valuable feedback through the form of formative feedback, which would aim to help students understand how their assessment task is progressing and where they need improvements to achieve the learning outcomes. The use of formative feedback can provide another key skill to add to students' arsenal, which is improving their social interactions. For this assessment task specifically, students would be able to communicate with their group members to discuss the feedback provided from their supervisor. To summarize, the new assessment task of the podiatry project plan and Gantt chart will be valuable for students to reach the desired learning outcomes. The learning theory that will underpin this assessment is social constructivism by Vygotsky. For this assessment, they will use formative feedback with their supervisor to improve their knowledge and skills to generate a well-thought project plan and Gantt chart. The principles of this assessment would follow the standards set out by TEXA and the Higher Education Standards Framework. It will also engage students better than the current practice, as the formative feedback will include regular assessments of the project plan and Gantt chart. Finally, my question to you all is, how can we refine this assessment task to balance student engagement and workload while upholding assessment principles? Here is the reference list. Thank you for listening.